Hi, friends.
Hi, everybody.
Welcome to this
Yay.
deep dive. Yay.
Hi, Jan.
We'll get
Hi,
started
Jessica.
in maybe 60 seconds or so.
Cool.
I'm really excited to be joined by Jenny. Maybe a lot of you know Jenny already or have read her books.
Yay. Seeing so many familiar names. So good to see all of you. Thank you for being here. Yay. Hi, everyone. Hi, Nicole. Great to see you.
Welcome. We'll get started in probably about 30 seconds. Thanks for joining. I also want to share that Jenny has not been given any of my questions in advance. She's been very brave to just jump into this deep dive and conversation with me
the best
today.
way.
Yeah. All right. If we're ready, I think we should get started. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the deep dive with Jenny Blake. I'm Jake. I'm one of the co-founders of Cave Day. In case you don't know, or in case you're watching this as a recording later on, as a co-founder of Cave Day, we lead one of the most focused communities on the internet. We believe that by improving the quality of your work, you can improve the quality of your life. So we help people monotask and focus in what our focus sessions are called caves. And Jenny runs kind of a similar community and wrote a book called Free Time. I've got it here, among two other books about very similar topics. And yeah, we're here to dive deep. We believe that just like our whole world shouldn't revolve around work. And so that's kind of the theme of the day and the theme of Cave Day. So Jenny, do you want to just do a quick intro on yourself and a little bit on the book? Today's not going to be a whole promotion of the book,
spiel.
but it'll
forget the spiel.
An intro.
Yeah. Probably a lot of you already know about the book. Well, I have to say, if you've read the book, you know that I feature Cave Day in Free Time as a beautiful example, not just of creating deep work containers, but asynchronous facilitation. So I actually did a cave I did one live cave to write the book proposal for Free Time. So it helped me kind of rip the Band-Aid off of a really big project. I was intimidated, but I did a 3-hour cave and I did in fact emerge with something tangible. It was so exciting. And I just love the intentionality of entering the cave and how Jake and his team facilitate. And so I wrote the little snippet about Cave Day while in an asynchronous cave in the book. So it's just a joy to be able to partner and do this and not just talk about the book and whatever else Jake can think to ask, but all of us together to get to co-work. So it's like an introvert's dream, we get to just be alone together, making progress on our big project. I love it.
Yeah.
I didn't tell you anything about Free Time, but I did tell you about Cave Day. So does that count, Jake?
That's perfect. We're gonna talk a little bit about Free Time, don't worry. But I'm gonna throw something your way, which is something we did in the last one that I led, which is 20 question warm-up. All right, one or two word answers. Just quick, let's go 20 questions to get to know Jenny. Starting with what's your zodiac sign and do you care?
Oh, yes, it's taught me so much. Libra sun, Virgo rising, Scorpio moon.
Okay, keep it short. What time do you wake up?
Ideally 5:30.
What's your go-to pastry?
Cookie, gooey.
What's your coffee order?
Black.
What's the app you use most on your phone?
Notion.
The website you visit the most?
Sadly, Gmail. Wait, I lost sound. Can you repeat the question again?
Talent show talent.
Oh, talent show talent. Well, I'm learning Arabic right now in Duolingo and I'm almost finished with the course. So I'm going to cheat. That's what it's going to be.
Favorite animated movie?
Oh gosh. I don't know. I loved Up.
Great. Your last flight, where and when?
From Vancouver, coming back from the TED conference, first time attendee.
Bragger. No, that's really cool.
You asked.
I know. Are you more likely to treat yourself after a big win or a bad day? And what's your treat?
Big win. Staying in a hotel by myself, a staycation.
Nice. What was your first paying job?
Working for the Los Altos Town Crier as a reporter when I was
What
15.
was your worst job?
Mm. Mm, I never had too many worst ones. I guess just filing papers as a temp, being bored out of
Okay.
my mind.
What would you think is your most used emoji?
Oh my gosh, I love the nerd emoji.
What non-work thing do you put in your calendar every day or every week that you love doing?
Surrender. It's on there as
Okay.
a 3 times a week reminder.
We'll come back to that. I'm curious. What distracts you the most?
Pings. Just
What's a
phone
hobby
pings.
what's a hobby you love doing, but you would never do professionally or for money?
Dog training.
Kindle, paper, or audio?
All 3.
One thing you've started doing or using recently that you wished you had started earlier?
I'm digging the Remarkable tablet. It's not very functional compared to the iPad, but it mimics writing on paper, and it's fun to read and edit things on the Remarkable tablet.
Yeah, I have one of those. A
Yeah.
trend that you have no desire to get into?
Social media. You
And
all know that already.
Lastly, what is one thing you're looking forward to in the coming week?
This
Here we are.
cave. Yeah,
Great.
we're here. My dreams have come true. We're here together, all of you.
Amazing.
And my other trend I'm not going to participate in is like crazy lip filler. I'm good. I'm sorry, everyone. My lips are what they are. That's how they're going to stay.
Good for you.
Thanks.
So if you're just joining, or if you didn't get the full agenda, we're going to do about 45 minutes to talk with Jenny, and then about 45 minutes of deep work together. So hopefully you brought something to work on. It sort of aligns free time with Cave Day. All right, so let's start with the book, and then we can move on to deeper personal questions. We'll talk about surrender and that idea that you brought up. So you talk about the book being for heart-based businesses and heart-based business owners. To me, a lot of the book is about giving yourself permission to do things like work on your own schedule. You offer a ton of tools to build the systems to help automate and delegate and do a lot of the things that will give you the free time. My question is, my question is, why did you need the book? I'll give you some context, which is that I believe that we often teach the things that we need to learn ourselves, and that we give the advice that we need or needed to hear, and we write books that we need or needed. So
absolutely.
Tell me, I know you talk a little bit about your apocalyptic 2013 and burnout and a bunch of other things, but tell me, why did you need this book?
I will start by saying I'm a lifelong people pleaser, kind of straight A student, good girl, don't cause any ruckus. Things are a little bit chaotic at home. So just be practically quiet and just fit in, don't rock the boat, and make sure everyone around me is okay and happy. And that is quite a suffocating way to live, as it turns out. And it kind of combines, the people pleasing combines with achievement. I was very achievement oriented, almost as a way of validation. Like, I don't think I'm an Enneagram 3 anymore, but if any of you are passionate about it, I resonated with the 3 very much. And now it's like, even this week, those in the BFF community know the question I've been asking is, what is my business trying to tell me? And I feel that business can be such an incredible personal development journey, just like intimate relationships can. Becoming a parent is pretty epic. I'm not one, but I know it changes your life. And then being a business owner. And so I wrote this book because I wanted and craved a different way of doing business that wasn't going to create burnout, that wasn't going to take me away from the things I most care about in life, that would also relax this obsession in the business world around growth and metrics and success and this like hard driving, hardcore business, it just wasn't enough for me. It wasn't resonating. So I wanted to write a business book that would be fun to read, that would make systems, for myself included, that would make
Mhm.
systems thinking fun and easy for my team members to grasp. Deep down, I hope every business owner can just give this book to their future team members and therefore do less work. So I kind of pictured at a meta level that my greatest joy would be that I wrote the manual for new team members, like that I would want to hand my team so I could do less work in onboarding them. And that then that could scale out to all business owners who, even if they already know everything in the book, they give it to
Yeah.
their team members, and that in turn makes their life easier without them having to do much.
Yeah, I mean, it's a powerful concept, the idea of doing less work, but I have to admit, for myself and in the work that we do at Cave Day, like in the training, we find that concept feels unattainable. Like, yeah, right, Jenny, I'm going to do less work. Like, nobody aspires to do less work. I want to, we live in, America, like capitalist central. Like, we have, working hard is attached to our value and who we are and our personal worth, right? We talk, at Cave Day, we did this training program earlier this year where we talked about the 3 insidious forces, basically the things that get in the way of this relationship to work. Basically, one, your upbringing, that your family, your parents, your role models, your influences are like, we try to please them, we look up to them, and it sort of messes with like our understanding of what is possible. 2 is culture, right? Social scripts, what our industry says we should be doing. And 3 is your brain. Your brain fears that I'm going to be rejected if I don't keep posting on social media, or I'm going to be outcast, or I might not make rent this month if I, work less, right? So I guess my question for you and for the people here is like, I hear do less work. And it seems exciting, but scary. Like, have you had to do any work, or when you talk to people about this idea, how do you push against or overcome the social scripts and the deep, fears we have about, well, I have to keep working so that I'm seen and valuable and worthy and blah, blah, blah. Oh, you muted. I know. 1 second. 1 second. I got to make you the co-host. There you go.
There we go. All right.
All
Awesome.
right.
Thank you. I have to mute because I have dog barking in the background. So sometimes I just mute when I'm not speaking. Yeah, I love the 3 that you highlighted. And a big theme of this book is questioning assumptions about what we think is true. So if I work less, I will be less successful. I will earn less money. Or to take another example, if I'm not on social media, I will not build as big of a platform, or I will not have the success that I want. And I just want us all to question every single one of these assumptions. What if you do less and therefore create 10 times better work? What would that look like? What if you do less and you're 10 times happier? What if you do less and you get to focus on the things you're uniquely good at, and then your work is so unique and resonant that that's what catapults you towards success? What if you work less and therefore you're an inspiration to others? It's just, there are so many ways to turn these thoughts around, which is a lot of what I've practiced through Byron Katie's work. That any thought that creates stress is an alarm clock waking us up to something that might be more true. So especially with money, we have so much we carry around money and work and success. Like you said, Jake, especially those of us who are here stateside, it's embedded in who we are. The first question we ask anybody is, what do you do? And so I just question and just call BS, because who profits from these kind of thought worms that are implanted? Oh, if I'm not on social media, I won't be successful. Says who? What? The social media companies that want to profit from your attention? And if you love it, it's great. I would never, ever tell anybody. I have one of our BFFs is just thriving on TikTok, building her business from 0 to 100 through TikTok, and she loves it. But for anybody that I guess I've always been a little bit of a rebel in this way, for anyone to tell me what I can and can't do or what I should or shouldn't do, that immediately makes me want to just to prove them wrong and at least hold a flicker of a candle that I can prove them wrong. I may not, I don't know for sure, but I'm willing to try.
I love that idea that like what could be true or questioning what is true, and what could be more true. I think that that feels like that resonates with me a lot. In your book, you talk about email a lot, but specifically, there's an idea that you talk about with Elizabeth Gilbert, that she says email requests are essentially people entering your home uninvited, and what was it, Anne Patchett?
Yes.
Basically that she's anything she wants to say has already been written in her books. She doesn't need to go on social media or do interviews because anything of value is in her books, so read her books. I like the idea of questioning, and I just find it I find it very difficult. Like I like what Elizabeth Gilbert is saying, and you know, you said that the site that you visit the most is Gmail, right? Like what if you're a people person? What if you like pleasing people? What if you haven't?
Yeah, I lost you a little bit, but I kind of got the gist.
Yeah, go ahead. My mic keeps.
I think it's important to decide what you want to be good at. And I do have friends. My friend John Levy in New York, he wrote a book called You're Invited. For 12 years, he's been hosting dinners where he invites influencers from different industries. And he explicitly, I was at a conference with him, and the head of a really popular social media app, emerging one, said, "Hey, you want to have a meeting?" And he said, "Actually, no, I'm not on this app. I want friends, not fans." And so John is very deliberate. He actually doesn't try to build a one-to-many platform. He is in the business of connecting friends who are influential, successful people in their industry, and that's his thing. Some people love email and they actually love connecting. Just like you said, John, they love the all day, every day. They pride themselves on responding within mere minutes. And that's great too. For me, email has been my biggest source of what I call micro guilt for 15 years, if not more. A constant, like low level hum of guilt constantly. And that goes back to the people pleaser of I'm not responding fast enough or at all. And I can't keep up. And then I feel tugged of I'm not doing my best work. I'm reacting over here. And the reason that I included the Liz Gilbert quote is just shifting the perception that we owe everyone else. And I think it's the life of a people pleaser or a codependent. If anyone has struggled with codependency issues, Terry Cole talks a lot about this in her work on boundaries, that like I was always asking, what does everyone else want? If you ask me, where do I want to go to dinner? What do you want? Where do you want to go? How's everyone else doing? How am I getting back to everyone in my inbox fast enough? And then who's missing from that equation is me. And so I've had to reclaim my time and my attention and drop the guilt and trust that the friends who stick around for me know that even if I respond to a text message a month later, it's okay. And it's nothing personal. And we kind of laugh about it. And then I give others permission to do the same. So I guess, well, I think you got to go with your energy a little bit on this, and it's not sustainable otherwise.
I hear that, and I also want to call you out because you're saying you check Gmail the most, and
no, it's the most visited. The question was the most visited website. That one's always open. Okay, but I don't check it all day.
Well, I mean, we look up to you as like, well, you're the expert. You're talking about free time, and you're able to, work less and make more impact and whatever. And still you're checking your email, and you say that it's just open all the time.
It's open. It's the website that's never closed. However, let's talk about today. So we're recording this at 11:20 Eastern, or we started at 11. I have not checked that. I don't know a single message that came into my Gmail, my Pivot Help Scout, or my Free Time Help Scout. What I did do though, was right around 10:30, I searched Jake. I searched Jake's name in Gmail just to make sure Jake wasn't telling me, hey, can you jump on 20 minutes early? So I knew today the number one email that I didn't want to miss was if you had any instructions for me before we came on. So
okay.
it's open, but I have to say, I don't know a single thing that's in there from waking up at 6 and it's almost noon.
Okay, that that makes me feel like I can trust you again. You know,
Yeah.
no, I believe you. Like, you know, that
Yeah.
I don't want you to say like, well, we shouldn't be checking our emails. We should have boundaries. We should work less. And you know, I check my email every 10 minutes since 6 a.m. Like, okay, that makes me
I
feel a
also
little bit
think
better.
what in my business could possibly fall apart even if I didn't check my email even yesterday. So it's actually been a day and a half, like it could accumulates. But what could possibly fall apart in this time? Like that's what I find so funny of the nature of
Yeah,
most of our work is what could
but I
possibly
don't think
fall
that
apart.
I don't think that that's what most people are thinking. I mean, I check my email much more than anyone in the Cave Day community would believe. Like, I check it often. I'm not great with email, and I think the fear is not like my business is going to fall apart. There's a feeling of like it feels good to get a new message. Oh, someone wants to reach out to me. Let me check again. Oh, somebody is canceling. Somebody signed up, and that feels good, or that feels or whatever I'm working on is like a little bit too challenging to like sit with it. And so email is something that I know what to do. I check it and I can file it away. I can check it and respond quickly and be done. I can check it and come back. And that gives me something to do. And being busy is better or feels more comfortable than sticking with a hard thing. So I don't think it's like my business is going to fall apart. Yeah, I mean, Darcy here puts in the chat, like it's a comfortable distraction. Um,
Yeah,
so
I'm finding that I get a surge of dopamine when I feel almost mischievous. Like I haven't looked at it in
mm,
2 days. What I'll do is maybe tomorrow morning, I'll tell myself, as is in the book, I'll say, Jenny, your job today is email. If I do nothing else, sit at that desk for an hour or two. And I now have a rush of accomplishment when I go in and in a flurry, I'll get it from like 60 and I play a game and like, how fast can I get this done?
yeah,
And I'll get it from 60 to 4. And then that makes me feel so accomplished. And like I just kind of uh, had a cheat code because it meant that instead of the smaller dopamine hits, I just got a big rush of it all in one day, all the meanwhile living my life for 2 days unbeknownst to everyone else, kind of.
yeah. I mean, yeah, I think like we could all probably be better at email or have clearer boundaries with ourselves or just close the tab. I
I
want to
think
go ahead.
I think it's something that no one has really solved. Like it's this gnarly thing that just spirals out of control. We have so many inboxes. And so I also feel like I've been really comforted knowing I'm not alone in the challenges that I face with email. I was so glad when Cal Newport wrote A World Without Email. And I don't use email to correspond with my team or anything, but you're right. I think what he put so well is that there's other people on the end of the message, and I want to be respectful
Yeah,
and grateful. And so I never want to let anyone down. And yet I've had to accept my own pace. The other thing I'll say, I do have notifications on. You had mentioned if someone new signs up. I do
yeah,
have push notifications for PayPal and Stripe because I take it as like a little moment of celebration in the day that, oh, a thing just came through and I go, oh, cool, let's celebrate. Things are going well. It's just, I try to let it remind me that uh,
yeah.
of a little moment of
I I
joy.
I get that. That definitely resonates with me. Um, I'm going to use the book as a starting point to have a conversation about life, which is that I so appreciated how you were about your life in the book. Like you shared your income, you shared you know, the bad year you had and bad experiences and how it influenced, you know, how you think now. Um, I found it really interesting. I think this is probably one of the first books that I've read that is intentionally post-pandemic. Like the pandemic hit and this is what has come out. You know, a lot of business books and nonfiction that I've read is typically tries to be evergreen, but this talks a lot about post-pandemic. I, I know that you had a rough first 6 months of the pandemic. You know, you're in the book you talk about your income streams basically cutting out, um, or your biggest ones. I had a very similar experience. I was a freelancer. Cave Day was not what it is now. And I want to talk a little bit about, like, you know, it to read this book and to listen to you, it can feel like your life is perfect and amazing, and you have all this free time to, like, go have picnics and whatever, and you probably do. And I want to have a little bit more real talk, which is like, things are not always great, right? And I'm happy to share a little bit more vulnerably to kick things off, which is a little bit like, you know, the pandemic is really hard. Like, I lost a lot of expected income. I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. You know, Cave Day was just this little side business. My design work was falling through. Being a parent was hard. Being a partner was hard. I didn't take any time for myself. I had all these big goals. You know, I'm very diligent, as our community would know, like, about making goals and big plans. And, you know, 2020, I had giant plans. You know, travel the world and cross a bunch of things off. And, like, literally, like, 90% of my goals were like, no, can't do it. And so for me, it was a shift from setting up goals, which you talk a little bit about goals versus systems in the book. That the goals felt very arbitrary, and that since the pandemic, I don't know, I'm curious if this resonates with you, that setting a goal feels arbitrary. You know, make six figures, double my business or whatever. It's sort of like, well, where did that number come from? It feels kind of arbitrary. And so for me, it was about sort of drinking down from, like, what's the goal to, like, what's the system that I can set up, which feels like it's relevant to the book. But I'm still having a tough time figuring out what I want to be doing and where Cave Day could go, and how to be a good parent and a good business owner and a good friend. So I don't know, what about that resonates with you? Can you share a little bit about how your life is not 7 days in a row of picnics?
Yeah, definitely not. And all of 2020 was very challenging. I just hesitate to talk too much about that because so many people had it so much worse. So
Sure.
I don't, that's why I don't delve into it too much, but it was excruciating at many points. I think what you're describing is what I find fascinating about adulting, which is that your dance card, your computer cache gets more and more full. Like, you have more browser tabs open at any given time of you're
Yeah.
married and now you have a kid and now you have a business. Oh, and the business grew. So now you have team members. Oh, and now a pandemic hit and it wiped out the whole in-person aspect of what you're doing. And you, of course, were years ahead of the trend of remote work and deep work and facilitated focus. So that's partly why I'm so passionate about systems and about, you know, McKinsey research shows we're 5 times more productive when we're in a flow state. If I can help myself and others reach a flow state where we sit down at the computer, work for 5 hours and we're done, but it's highly focused, just like what you teach and facilitate, then I think we have more time to deal with all these other aspects of our lives, of being human, of having time alone, having time with your family, time to be a good dad, time to be out in the community. So
Yeah.
it's a lot. And I think I'm just partly want to acknowledge how much we're all carrying and why I think the factory system just actually doesn't work. It's not going to create healthy, thriving people necessarily. We have to claim that for ourselves. And I think there was another part to your question. Life is definitely not picnics every day. Part of also the reason I create redundancy in systems is that I'm very cyclical. Sometimes I'm thriving and other times I'm just completely dysfunctional, not even sick, but just I have no energy and I'm a sensitive person. So, like, it's just a lot of energy of
Yeah.
peopling takes a lot of energy. So a lot of what I create is actually to allow myself to take space when I need it, when things aren't going well, without everything falling apart. So I kind of design for that.
Talk to me about redundancy, because that seems like a bad thing, but you're talking about it like a good thing. What do you mean?
Well, in systems thinking, redundancy is that you have backup systems. So like Google will have backup servers so that if one server location is hit by a tornado, then another one picks up the slack and carries on, and nobody knows that the service is not down. The same thing can be true in our business. If it's just you, there's no redundancy. They say one is the most dangerous number, because if there's one, you're fragile. It can break. You can break, you get sick and everything grinds to a halt. So redundancy would be that you have, ideally, I'm like right now, I only have one core team member and a podcast production team, but I'm probably missing 2 part-timers that I'm intentionally not filling as we go through the summer. And I know that puts me more at risk, because if I do get sick and I do need a week or 3 off, currently there is actually no one who could really step in. And that's risky. That's where I would start to piss customers off if they don't get a response in 3 weeks. That's not a great idea. So I'm living on the edge right now, living dangerously, so I can have some space to retreat and listen deeply and figure out what's next.
You're talking about creating. Go ahead.
Well, you also talked about metrics and goals. And for many years now, goals don't motivate me at all. And I kind of also realize the arbitrary nature of them. So sometimes my little gremlin tells me that I'm barely even running a business because I don't have overt goals and I don't track metrics very closely. And so basically I sometimes tell myself it might as well just be a hobby, but I just consider it, I'm like completely surrendered to what is. So I figure whatever comes my way is perfect, and good things still happen, and they keep happening even without goals. I do have a few though. Like I want to sell a certain number of books. I want to grow the podcast to a certain size. Like I do have a few core goals, but not many.
Sure. And I think that there's something underlying that, which is the desire to live a certain lifestyle that you have, that you want to make whatever your definition of success is, you want to make sure that your business can support your lifestyle, and that's related to a podcast and a book for you. And I think as a business owner, it's sometimes hard to, there's no answers. It's like, well, I think a lot of us have that goal, right? That our business can support our life. And it's not always clear what you should do. Like, you didn't always have a podcast. You didn't always have this book, so there are like bets that you're taking that I don't know that I would necessarily call them all goals, but it's tied to this underlying desire to have that as the outcome. And then along the way there might be some other things, but you're building a system to make that happen. I think for me personally, I'm my mom would hate if I said it like this, but sort of messed me. My mom was a school teacher for 35 years and always talked in these like posterized, advice. And, she was like, life is like hockey, that the team or the person with the most goals wins. And I mean, that was something that I grew up with. And it's so hard to decouple like success and I don't know, like a good life with some of these things that I was raised believing.
Yeah, that's a really tricky one to feel like that. Mine was, my mom would just say like, work is work. It's not supposed to be fun. Like just look at me like I was crazy when I was leaving Google. Like, what do you mean you want more passion? What that was like as if I was speaking a foreign language. And I love how you called it placing bets. I am a big fan of the Jim Collins flywheel, and he wrote this flywheel monograph because he pulled it out of Good to Great. I am always thinking about the flywheel, and the reason that I want to grow the book and the podcast is that if they get to a certain...
Can you explain the concept? I'm not even familiar with the concept of the flywheel.
That the most successful companies have a flywheel, basically a virtuous cycle of activities where one thing leads to the next. They all help with each other hub or spoke in the wheel, basically. And he uses the example of Amazon, that let's say Amazon has a flywheel with Amazon Prime. So you sign up to become a member, therefore you get things faster, therefore you order more, therefore you renew your Prime membership. And it becomes this virtuous circle of momentum. And that at first in the business, you put all this energy and the thing isn't moving. But bit by bit, the flywheel slowly starts turning. And then because it's this virtuous circle, it goes faster and faster and faster. And then the momentum, then your job is not to mess it up. So in my case, my flywheel might be the book grows the podcast, and therefore the podcast grows the book. And then both of those might grow my private community. And the private community then funds me being able to support the book and the podcast. And even keynote speaking is kind of a side offshoot or licensing off that flywheel. But for me, growing the podcast and the book, of course, I feel more people can benefit. But if I get them to a big enough size, the community and ad revenue could support where I don't have to fill my schedule up with too much else. It would mean that I don't have to go do all these different business activities just to pay the bills. It would mean, for me, the flywheel means that I can focus and do more of what I think I'm uniquely skilled at. And I decided, reaffirmed, that it's one-to-many communication. And I reaffirmed that actually during the pandemic. And to your point about writing a post-pandemic book, I don't know about any of you, but I kind of feel like any book written pre-pandemic, you just want to look at the author and be like, you don't even know what's coming.
Yeah.
Like there's a
This
before time, and you got to see, does your stuff pass the test? Even Pivot, I had joked 2020, I wanted it to be a tipping point year for Pivot. And it most certainly was, because Pivot became part of the zeitgeist, that phrase, not necessarily the book, but I do think that I did try to make free time evergreen, and it's so important to acknowledge this like massively life-changing event that really reprioritized for a lot of us how we want to live.
Yeah, I feel that too. I want to go back a little bit to talk about like goals and a little bit of the idea of flywheel, but sort of related to like your own version of success. And I suppose where it, I don't want to say where it falls apart, but where it starts to show its seams maybe is when other people are involved. So you mentioned a few times in the book that you're married, you have a partner, and I'm married as well. And sometimes when I share, I want to take a day off, I want to take, I'm not going to grow my business today, is sort of what my partner hears. I'm not going to obviously there become, I want to avoid the word goal, but like, I don't know, a shared future desire, I guess. And that when someone else is involved, it can be tricky, or in my experience, it has been tricky to navigate something that is questioning, like you're saying, questioning a lot of like the norms and definitions of hard work and success and time off and systems from a more traditional way of thinking about work and linear careers. So anything to share about like how your version of success has impacted your partner, or how it's been difficult to sort of co-navigate a life when you're running a business that you do whatever you want?
Right. Well, in the early days, we bonded because he saw Cal Newport's deep work on my bookshelf, and Tim Ferriss, and he was from Beirut, Lebanon, and he tried to gift 4-Hour Workweek to a bunch of his friends, and nobody would listen, nobody would read it. So when he met me, he was just surprised. We kind of resonated by my bookshelf in my tiny Nolita apartment. And I'm in a little different situation because I'm the breadwinner. I'm the only earner for our household. So basically whatever I need to do to stay healthy and keep earning is Michael's fully supportive. On the other hand, I've done a lot of Byron Katie work to not judge him because he's an artist. I married a painter, and not yet. We haven't had the nonlinear breakthrough yet in terms of his art and his earnings. And so it's hard and this is why I wrote the essay in the book, Eyes on Your Own Paper, because a lot of people from the outside would say, what do you mean he's not earning money? Or what do you mean? Or I could look at what he's doing today and what are you doing floating around the house? Like, get to work, whatever. I would have these thoughts. And then I had to remind myself, eyes on my own paper. Why am I going to obsess over how someone else is spending their time or what they're earning or not, when I could funnel all that energy back into my own business and earn way more abundantly with something in my sphere of control than eyes on someone else's paper, judging them and like demanding that they do something differently to their own energy. So in our dynamic, it's a constant eyes on my own paper, funnel that energy back into my own business. And I also realized my thought exercise was if anyone tried to tell me how much I had to earn in order to be accepted in the relationship, I would slap them. I would just be like, you're crazy if you're going to tell me what I need to earn or how much I'm going to work. Like, we all want the highest good for the household. And I trust that it will come through whoever channel it's meant to. And that right now that's mine. But that I'm just, to your point, I think our society has us judge each other based on time or what it appears like we're doing. But even on rest days, I judge myself. Like yesterday morning, I had my first call was at 11:30 and I was like just a zombie walking around the house. I had no energy. I didn't sleep well. I could not get myself for the life of me to sit down and do a single iota of work before that first call, not even inspiring good stuff, nothing. And I had to just remind myself not to judge myself. Like, oh, okay, I guess I need a rest day today. And again, just decoupling the notion of how busy we appear to be to any kind of results, and trusting time and again that less is more, and recharging is actually the best in the long run to do the best work.
Yeah, you're speaking to the right audience for that. But I think I think there's still the cultural script and the personal, our influences and our upbringing that affect how we feel about that, and the reason that we judge ourselves. And that even if you had like some big success and you've decided, I'm going to take a week off, I'm going to take a day off, I think a lot of us, I'm not going to say you, I think a lot of us, me included, all feel the need to like, I should probably check my email. I could think about that thing and write a couple notes down while I'm, it's like, it's so hard to not judge ourselves for resting and time off, and not even resting so that your work gets better. Like it's not about everything serving our work. It's just like resting because you're a human and it's necessary and it's good for you as a person. So yeah, thanks for sharing that.
Sure. And I think all of us
Sure.
here do some kind of creative, strategic work. And if you run a business, it's all about creative, strategic thinking and intuitive thinking and being and operating as well. So I find that it's not only a detractor, it's a requirement. It's the secret sauce that each of us has, is to be as rested as we can be, to be as strategic and creative as our unique vessel allows us to be.
Yeah. I think that's great. We have just like 2 more minutes before we're going to jump into some deep work. There's a concept you talk about in the book. It's like one sentence, but it really resonated with me, and it relates to a book I read a couple of years ago called Company of One. I don't know if you know Paul Jarvis, right? Yeah. But the phrase is the positive plateau. The idea that like cultural expectation and upbringing and our brain and capitalism want us to like ride that, keep moving to the right and up, versus a positive plateau, which is you talked about a podcaster or a YouTuber or something that was like, I'm not trying to grow more, like I have enough, I can run my business with the size. And I think that it's a good model to have. Can you sort of bring that analogy to life a little bit and how that relates to possibly your business?
Yes, the podcaster I profile is John Lee Dumas, who is absolutely crushing it. I mean, earns 6 figures a month through his podcast. And he's part of a community where some people would say, well, don't you want to grow even more? You could hire this. It's the business and the fisherman parable that many of you probably know, where the businessman says to the fisherman, you could scale this operation and get bigger boats and hire a team, yada, yada, yada. To make a long story short, the fisherman says, why would I do all that? So you can relax on the beach with your family. And the fisherman goes, that's exactly what I'm already doing. So just the pressure to grow. And I think that each of us has a level of earning that is really, truly joyful and spacious. So I do feel that it's helpful to strategically figure out how to arrive at what I would call the joy number. that you can relax, you can exhale, you have enough to cover the bills and a few perks that you want in your life and your lifestyle. And even one of those perks may be supporting your extended family. And so I'll leave that there. But beyond that, there's nothing saying you have to grow, that you have to get any bigger, that you have to scale any farther, that you have to have a bigger team, that you yourself need to be earning any more than you are. So that I think it's just very individual. And one thing that I'm trying to encourage in the book, and I think a lot of people are resonating with this term, delightfully tiny team, is just for those of us that value freedom more than infrastructure. And I grew too fast. Even while I was launching the book, I brought on too many team members and I was miserable. And that's why this summer I'm like going the opposite direction of just like, I want the quiet. I don't want a single person asking me a single question right now. I don't have the energy for it. So I want to encourage all of us, you're going to maybe scale up and then you're going to scale back and you're going to find the sweet spot that you thrive in. Has nothing to do with any kind of growth chart. That's why I think I'm maybe a bad business owner, because I just could care less about goals and metrics insofar as I'm spaciously supporting myself and my family. And even right now, I'm not even there, having recovered from like printing all the books and the route I took, but that's okay.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a good reminder that there are other paths than just needing to grow all the time. And what I appreciated about you sharing in your book and in your previous books too, is that it feels like to me, there's like a mesh between your business and your life. I feel like I got to know you a little bit personally through the book and through our conversations, but that a lot of it feels experimental. Like the analogy that I would use is like a pendulum. Like you're sort of swinging from one way to the other, and maybe it starts off a little more extreme, and over time, like you don't need to overcorrect and go back and forth. You sort of find that thing that works for you in the middle. So
yeah, like I have no interest in earning, let's say $1 million if I have a team of 20 people around me. Like it just doesn't interest me. I would rather earn $200,000 and like have peace every day of like of not the pressure and the overhead. So and that's kind of why I shared my income in the book, because no, it's not, my book is not going to interest anybody that just wants the fastest path to 10-figure business or something like that. So I think it was just so important to say, this is what I've created. This is about how far I've gotten with all of it and the variables that I'm juggling. And because I'm not just oriented at making more money, but thinking about my own peace and joy and quiet and ease and all that, then there's different variables involved. So the P&L statement is incomplete.
Yeah, that's a great point. Jenny, we're about to jump into some deep work. Before we do, is there anything that I didn't ask you that you want to let people know about or share?
I just love that you're asking the hard questions. That's awesome, Jake. Way to go. Jake is like, I didn't know what to expect. No, I like the grill mode. Yeah,
it's a deep dive. I want real conversation. Yes. I don't need this to be your press tour. I had even more challenging questions that I'll leave off. But we'll hopefully continue the conversation. All of you here will get a follow-up email that will include links to the recording and Jenny's book. I think it's freetime.com. Do you want to put that in the chat?
Yeah,
real quick.
I'll throw that in the chat. Yeah.
And then the podcast as well, Free Time Podcast, which sort of not a secret, but I was a guest once.
Yes, he was. But I didn't give you nearly the hard-hitting questions that you're giving me. I need you to interview yourself now.
You come to my house, this is what you get.
So good.
All right, well, let's do some deep work. I'm going to stop recording. Thank you all for coming.